Hello, welcome to episode 145 in this series where I'm programming an NES game live on Twitch from scratch. Let's get started. A little bit of an early stream start today, but mostly because I think I'm going to be streaming pretty late here. But we'll see. We'll see what we can get accomplished. What I'd like to be able to do is implement some code related to scoring, and then kind of go from there. We'll do some math related to adding numbers bigger than 255. We'll see what kind of score scale we want to have. I have like no room on my desk here. I keep having to take out this Plextor drive for various purposes, and it I don't have a good space on it on my desk for it, and it just kind of sits here, and then I have to put it away and bring it back out and whatever. So I have so many. I'm trying to rearrange and get rid of things that I don't need to help organize some things better down here. All right, so let's see. This is objects, so I got to create a layer for the objects. And so we have an X, a Y, a type. And then if it's a spawn point, it does that. Otherwise, it's just whatever it is. So let's just start with adding an enemy. I don't have any imagery for them in these in this palette here. It doesn't really even matter technically, because this is just a sort of a placeholder for the object. Oh, one thing I did want to mention was so over the weekend we did a little series of presentations over on the Discord brewery channel for Video Game Sage, and the part of what we presented was like what everybody's working on, and Nathan Tolbert showed, which I didn't know, and it seemed like a few other people who use Tiled didn't know. You can open the JSON file directly. You don't have to export it, which was a huge revelation, a big time saver in my eyes, because it's kind of a waste of time to have to do that every time manually and remember to do it. So I thought that was really cool. And then obviously you can also export from the command line, but this is so much simpler. You just open the JSON file and work directly in that. So I'm just going to pick a random tile. It doesn't really matter. Do I even need to do that? It's been a while since I've worked with objects. That's select objects. This places an object. No, I don't even need to do that. Okay, cool. So now that I've got this object selected, I can give it a name and a type, which is also spawn point. And then we have some things that you can use here. You have the count. So the number of things, let's see. Oh, it actually, really, I'm surprised. I don't remember if I added that as a specialized type to tiled. I might have, because I'm surprised it remembered all of those things. It's possible. It's been a while since I've looked at this, so I've done that. Object types editor. Oh yeah, there it is. So it automatically adds those. All right, cool. That's good. I totally forgot about that. So count is 5 and delay is in frames, and it's we'll do a delay of like 10 frames per thing. And then one thing that we didn't do, let's open up that editor again because we added a new custom property. So we have spawn entity and spawn sprite. And the reason is because they're two different things. Okay. Oops. Cool. So we have the entity and the sprite, and so this is a string, right? Yeah. So if we go back to the project for a second, let's have it spawn one of those, and the sprite is the same thing, just lowercase. Oh, those are, oops, I'm telling it to do that. Meanwhile, those are the default values, and that's not what I wanted. So that and that. And this is spawn entity and spawn sprite. So this is this. All right, so let's save that. Let's see if just exporting that works. In theory, it should. Of course, it doesn't. Let's see why. Probably just some boneheaded thing that I didn't do right. Why didn't that debug? Object get value. Load map. There's no GID. Oh, I guess because because there's no tile associated with it. It could be. Let's I don't remember. Does that GID get used anywhere for the sprites? We may not need that, and I can just oh, it is. All right. But why? Map object GID. A visible sprite was not mapped to an export ID. I can't remember. And copy the content object method, blah, blah, blah. What if we do this? Is this going to lead to other problems? Because I don't remember why we care about that for objects. Doesn't seem to matter for the export right now. So let's see. Well, that broke things. Interesting. Alright, so how did I do this before where I had a sprite, an object that had a GID? Oh, because it's visible. Maybe that's why. Let's see. I mean, I should fix that if that's what's causing that breakage. We won't do it tonight, but I'll definitely put a note in here somewhere. Also, for anybody who pre-ordered the game and has access to the source, I did just push up a bunch of stuff, so you should take a look at that. It was working up until I added this object, so obviously the object is the issue, but I'm confused as to why. Well, maybe it's not even, you know what, maybe it's not even this. Maybe it has to do with something in the way the map is loading, because even the background is wrong. So I'm thinking the game code may be the issue here. So let's take a look. All right, so let's open up the source for load level and load x0 level 1 object. Okay, so this is the spot that we want to break on. So we load x0, load that. There's one object. So load A with objects low, and then store that there, and then load high. Okay, so that's the level object data. So level object data is at AOD6. Oh, that's PPU memory. CPU A0D6. What is that object format? The number of objects, and then if it's not visible, it writes whatever the value of temp is. Otherwise, it writes the export ID. And then an entity ID. And then it writes the X and the Y position. Let's see, what are those? Hello? Why did my object disappear? There it is. X is 62. 62, and then Y is 10. No, Y is 2 bytes, so that'd be 310 in hex. 784. Okay, so those values are right. So that's good to know. So far, at least, it's looking okay. I just wonder if it's the GID messing things up. So visible, it's not visible. Spawn sprite ID is 6. Oh no, wait, this was that it was not visible. And then the spawn sprite ID is 1 byte, which it's saying is 0, and then the entity ID is 6. So the entity ID being 6 probably makes sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. But the sprite 0? I don't know about that. Oh, well, if it's not visible, then there is no sprite to draw, so that would be 0. Okay, so that also makes sense. No, but that's not what that is. That's the sprite to spawn. So that is projectiles. So the first thing in the non-projectiles is explode, right? Let's go to... So that should be 8. All right, so there's a problem with that. That should be 8. That's 6, that's fine. And then the count is 5, and the frame rate is... UN16 times frame rate divided by 1,000. I thought the delay... It is. Okay. So frame rate is 60 times the delay, whatever the delay is in frames. So... That's still not 100% right. Did I do it in seconds? I might have done it in seconds. Although I thought... It's reading it as a 16-bit value. Well, let's see. So if it was 1 times frame rate divided by 1,000... Oh... Is it adjusted by... Is it in milliseconds? It might be in milliseconds. Yeah, that would make sense. I should probably document this somewhere, right? So I said I want it to be 10 frames, so that'd be 160 milliseconds. Okay, that makes sense. So the thing that's not making sense is the fact that the fact that it's not getting a GID, which is messing up the code. But I don't know why we care about that other than, I guess, for it to have something visible on the screen, on the map. I just don't remember why it's using... why this is relevant to anything. So that's the first place we're using it. Based on the GID, map object GIDs. Are we just keeping track of how many of each one we're using? And then we're checking against the map metatiles. Oh, which we don't have anymore. A visible sprite was not mapped to an export ID. So if the GID doesn't match any of these map metatiles, which it wouldn't in this case, then we never give it an export ID. But why is that even relevant to... Because these would be... Or does this have the sprites in it also? Load map. Go through the metatiles. Map metatile to file system item. If the map metatile... Oh, which it would never be, right? Because none of these... Sorry, it's been a while since I've looked at this object code, so... we've changed so much about the way everything is working. So it's a little bit confusing. So there are no map metatiles anymore. Which means this never happens, so we don't even go through this anymore. So really the issue is what we want to do is we want to map what should be happening, I think, is we should be looking up what is the value of temp? It's just 0. Okay. So the export ID is the export ID is the ID of the sprite. I guess that we're going to be exporting here. This is GID -1 because the tile set index starts at... Yeah, so this isn't... So by changing the way we're doing the metatiles and not loading these in, we actually run into a problem now with the way objects are handled. So if it's not visible, then it writes a 0 because we don't care. Otherwise, it writes the export ID, which is whatever sprite ID it should be. But we're not mapping that to the list of sprites that we have, not in here, but in here. So the question then becomes, where do we have that information? We have this stored in here, and then what do we do with this? So we iterate through this, and then we add this to the project files. And then we say it's a sprite, so it would get exported properly. So what we want to do now is, instead of what we were doing, where we are iterating through and looking it up in the metatiles, what we should be doing instead is we should be looking for a matching object in that project file list, and then do we have a sprite ID that gets matched to that? I don't think we do. Oh, this gets an export ID here. What is this? Metatile export ID. What is this? Map metatile to file system item. But there are none. We never call this because we never get to this point anymore with the changes that we've made. So this is the, okay, so this is the place where we were mapping the export ID for the sprite, but this is no longer necessary. So we can get rid of this once we have this working, but what we really need to do is we need to iterate through the... Do we have the project files in here? Or even the... It's going to make it a little easier to see all the stuff that's coming in. So we have external sprites. That might be what we want to look at. What was the problem? Oh. So external sprite size is that, and then external sprites, let's see what we actually have in here. Position, count, delay, spawn sprite. Okay. Oh, because we haven't loaded anything in the map yet. So, oh, so this is actually interesting. Okay, so that's not even what I was thinking it was. That's more so after we process the map. Although it still doesn't have... Why doesn't that have... All right. What is that used for? If external sprite size is, okay, so it loops through external sprite size, and then oh, wait, so then why? That's interesting. So that's actually external sprites I. GID. But where is that supposed to get populated? I would imagine that's supposed to get populated before we call export. Oops, export map. External sprites. Let's take a look at this. File exists. If project files type is sprite, so let's see. Why doesn't it ever get to that? This is an export. Load project. There are 8 project files that it found. That's a sprite. And that's a sprite. So those are sprites. If the file exists, copy it to current file list and add an item, and then oh no, That's a really weird... I don't think I've ever had that happen before. Where I commented out the beginning of an if block and the else if continued to work, but obviously with the wrong consequences or the wrong effect. Okay, well, that at least that makes some sense. So, okay, that makes a little more sense. So now it actually loads up the external sprites. Here I thought we were going to be moving away from the tool here. But this is still wrong. Map objects. There's the one map object. That's fine. So let's see. So if it's not a sprite, then it does some other stuff. Otherwise, if it is, it grabs the sprite ID. It copies the spawn sprite from current file list. Yeah. Gets the file name without extension. Okay. It did that, right? Like it called this code? No. Let's see. Yeah. Why? What is sprite ID right now? It's 1. Okay. Oh, so was it fine and I was just looking at the wrong thing. Let's explode. I just assumed it was 0 based, but I guess not. Bullet. Okay. So external sprites, it is starting at 1. It's called explode. There is no count or delay or anything like that. It has a GID of 1. So then it goes through and it looks for if that's a match with any of the objects. It isn't. So then it goes to the next one, which is bullet. Same thing. And then player neutral. And then player tilt left. Player tilt right. Cloud. Enemy bullet. A little bit. And we should get a match there. And now we actually have a spawn sprite ID and a GID. Does that mean that this is going to work now? Let's hope. Let's just check out the level data. Should be the same location. Okay, but we do actually see some real values here. So this is the 310. But that still looks wrong. Where's Visual Studio? So So that writes 2 bytes, and then, okay, no, then that's visible. Okay, good. Yeah, that's the sprite ID, that's the entity ID. Okay, so that might actually be fine. That might be better. I think there's still a problem with the code in terms of, yeah, so it's still loading the map incorrectly, but at least we've got that part figured out. So the question then is, I guess, where is the math wrong for... Obviously, it looks like what's wrong is the skipping of the... maybe not. I was going to say it looks like what's wrong is the way we're skipping the... The way we're skipping the level data because of the new object stuff that was added into the map now with that extra object layer. But I'm not sure. So what is that called? Level object count. So that should just have been the value 1 right now. Yep. And then where do we use it next? That's it? We don't use it after that at all? Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, because that's a totally separate file. The object data. So how... Wait, how did that break... All right, let's take a look at something, because that, now I'm really confused, because actually that shouldn't have broken anything. So if we save this, re-export, I mean, I'm glad we looked at what we looked at because the object data wasn't correct, but the map itself and the object data are two separate things. Should just put this into my batch file. Oops. There is an actual make file. I don't want to mess with that right now. It's not really that important anyway for what we're doing. For some reason, I thought I was using a batch file, but... Okay, so adding the object breaks the map. Okay, well, at least it's easily reproduced. So, why would that have any impact on anything? Because loading the level while it loads the object, I mean, it must be, the only thing I can think of is it's a weird side effect of the code having a value that isn't 0 when it goes to look at the level count. Or the level object count, I should say. But it doesn't use that here. And the rest of the level data is pretty much the same. Right, it sets up all that stuff, and then basically the rest of the... I didn't see anything. There's nothing else in here that uses that. in this, we include the binary file for the map1 object file, like so, and that is just level 1 object like that, which we are just kind of blindly referring to here because we're just getting things going. So it loads the first value there, which is the count, which is fine. And then it gets the address of the object data for the map. Load A, that, store A, load A high, store that in +1, and then load A object data. Clear carry, add 1 to skip the object count. Store A in branch carry clear, otherwise, here, let's take a look at that. Is that just some sort of weird bad math? I don't think it is. So it loaded a level object data. It's A0D6, it clears carry and it adds and it just says, yeah, then it just stores that in it's A0D7. So where's my other memory window? A0D7. So yeah, so that says there's a count of 1, and then that's the first entry there. So again, not sure why this is breaking my stuff. Let's take a look at the level data it's loading. So parameter param1 is 7. What is parameter 1? Use param1 and param3. What is 7? Param1. Why? Oh, it loaded it into X. Okay. Maps low. Store it into row mem. Store it into level mem. Then load param1 again into X. And load maps high. And okay, so level mem is now at 9A1F. Which right away looks pretty good to me, but we can confirm that by just looking at the map itself. So we can see that's clearly the beginning of the same file, 690800032221, like all that seems good. So if we do load A of level mem, we will then clear carry and add this value to skip over some things. Carry was clear, so we didn't increment level mem +1, and then we store that back into level mem. So that's 9A34, which is, I believe, let's see, skipping some of the header information, but all right, so we load 69 as the max rows. We'll get our camera position. What's weird is You know what? I wonder if the map isn't the issue so much as the palette data. Because, like, it looks like it's got some of the map stuff correctly, but the palette is... The palette looks all messed up. It's possible... I mean, it's possible there's a bug in the code that is dealing with the... what's it called? The loading of the objects anyway, but the ship shows up and then the background scrolls, and you can see that looks pretty close to what it's supposed to be, but all of the tiles are black. If we look at the palette viewer, no, that's... Why are my metatiles missing? I mean, those should be there. Type compare object group, get array objects. Tile layer, so that's the tiles, that's the objects. Is there... Right, so the other tile layer is just a... So, right, it's just a tile layer named palette. So, what is the deal with this? The object layer got introduced in between. So that's a separate layer. Is it some sort of weird ordering thing? I mean, that wouldn't be great, but at least we could just move on for now. I'd like to work on something else besides the export process. No. What? It didn't process the map properly. It created a character or... Whoa, okay. I don't see any of those. It didn't process any of those. Okay, well, that explains why the map looks wrong. It didn't process the metatiles. So, why? This is the object part of... There must be something else that I just did that goofed this up. Like, it doesn't go into that at all. So, I mean, it goes into this. Is there any... I don't use map object in here. Why would it be... Why would the object layer be messing up? I mean, this is iterating through every type of layer in the map. So that's a tile layer. So it's going to go through and it's going to look at the data and it's going to say, hey, are you the palette based on the name or the meta? It's the attribute data, right? And it's not. So it's going to process all of that stuff. I mean, and it should be generating, at this point, it should be generating our list of discovered metatiles, right? So, yeah, so that's still happening. And then we're going to come back up and we're going to see another tile layer. And then we're going to come back up and we're going to see an object group. So we're going to process the object groups and we're going to go through all the objects and we're going to create these. So it's not visible. It's just going to iterate through all of these objects that, or all of the properties that are part of that object. I'm sure this is just going to be something really goofy and dumb. Okay, so then it sorts them using the Y like it's supposed to, and then we're done with the layers. And then this is just doing its copy of the data. Max object count, map object count. So there's one object, and the metatile count, it's saying there's only one. Why is it only saying there's one? Find all references. There's got to be something in the object code that must be messing this up. Oh, no, because there is only one. That's right. Okay. I forgot. Yeah, there's only one. That's fine. Mapped object. There's one. Okay, so there's that has the one value. And then there's map metatiles. I wonder if this is the issue. Map meta tiles. Which there's really nothing in here. Oops. Where is my... I clicked on the wrong thing. If the meta tile is actually used by map objects, enemies then copy the content of the thing. Otherwise, then we do this whole spiel. But the thing is that this is no longer relevant either, because it's not used by any object. All right, so this is why it's not copying and creating its own meta tiles. So let's see now if by changing that we actually get a list of meta tiles generated like we should be. Yeah, there we are. So NES asset tool, metatile1.metatile. So there's the solid blue water. There is the water with the wavelet. There is the blue shifty tile thing. There is the road in one direction. There's the road in the other direction. There is the grass, which has the wrong color. I was looking at that on a CRT on my front loader NES, and it is definitely the wrong color for grass. And that's the trees. Okay, so that looks like that actually finally may have worked. All right, so do we have Messin still up? No? I closed it? Okay. Okay, there we go. So now the question will be, do we get our spawn point showing up on the map once we get far enough up the map? Right? I don't see why we wouldn't. That code was pretty solid. It was just that the export process has changed, so that was kind of messing up some of that export logic. You know, initially I thought the ship was too angular and pixelated to work on a CRT, but the more I messed around with it today and yesterday, the more it kind of grew on me that it has a sort of a soft edged look to it on the CRT. So I think maybe we'll stick with it. And the shifting as you turn looks really good. All right. How much further till we get to this thing? Is it even still there? I think it is. All right, we're gonna get up pretty far, right? Probably should have made it a little bit less far up. There they are. No, not enough delay between them. Okay, cool. Let's fix that in the map. Let's make this visible on. Oh, it is visible on. On here. It's just not selectable. How or why? How do I move this sucker? It's weird that it's behaving that way. Okay, let's try again. We can also do this a little bit sooner. Which which one is it? Insert. Except that it's not a tile. Let's select. These icons are just so unmeaningful for me. I don't know if others feel the same way about these, but okay. We're on the object layer. Are we gonna be able to insert things? One of these does it. Edit, polygon, insert. Oh, because it's not visible? That was annoying. Okay. So there, we'll create our spawn point there. I guess that's why it wasn't letting me select it. Also, yeah. Okay. So, yep. Okay. So then let's do something crazy. Let's do it like 100, and the delay in milliseconds. Let's see. We can do. Let's do like 300 milliseconds and. Entity is called that, and the sprite is called that. Okay, so that's been saved, and let's go back into assets, and oops, not that one. Although that looks cool, that is not what we wanted to do. I wanted to re-export with the map change, so we added a bunch of we made it so the spawn point will spawn 100 enemies 300 milliseconds apart. Not really very realistic, but still should be neat to see. And we can do, we'll do a little bit something where we add enemies spawning on both sides. And then we ran out of sprites, ran out of entities. So obviously too many, but still kind of fun. Thanks, Sigma Heavy. Yeah, it was it was a longer break than I expected it to be, but it was it was fueled by a lot of things, and in the end it was the right thing to do. So but cool, I'm glad you were able to get something out of the videos, and thanks for coming on to the stream. You know what we can even do? Let's go crazy, and we'll have a bunch of enemies get spawned here. Right, so that should spawn. That's gonna be 4 sets of enemies spawned at once, roughly in the same area. And the point of this is I want to start working on some code to track score of when you destroy enemies. So it was a good little tangent into making sure the enemies actually spawn now after we changed the map code. Okay, so interesting. So somehow the projectiles aren't. I think that might be due to too many sprites in general. We can look at that next, and that'll be fun because that'll be some assembly code. Yeah, so you can't see the bullets even though I'm firing them. Would you be interested in checking the game I made? Sure, yeah, you can post that. I'm not going to look at it right this second, but maybe at the end of the stream, or towards the end of the stream. What kind of game is it? Too many sprites. So if we let's see, if we change the emulator, let's see if we can do anything. Options, preferences. Where are... It's called grind. Is it an RPG? You gotta hold down the jump button when you come in proximity to rails. Or oh, cool. So it's like grind, like a skateboard type game. I thought there was a way to tell it disable sprites, force back, blah blah blah. To oh, it does have remove sprite limit. Okay, let's see. Oh, so that was that was with the sprite limit disabled. Well, let's think about this for a second. So those ships, and part of it is I don't have the proper flicker code implemented. So that's why we're not seeing everything like we should. I'm not terribly upset by that. Okay, so those ships are in fact 16 by 16. So that makes sense. So that we are overloading the number of hardware sprites that are available. I was just curious if this would even work. So let's do this. Let's be a little bit more reasonable here. Let's say 5 here. Let's stagger it a little bit. Let's say we'll do 5 here. And then 5 there. And, you know, I mean, this is all... Part of what's going to be tough about a game like this, I mean, it's true with any game, but I feel like with shmups in particular, you've got a lot of work to do in terms of balancing things and making sure the number of enemies makes sense and that there's like an actual challenge to the game. But it's not like impossible because you've overloaded it with crazy numbers of, you know, with enemies and bullets and stuff like that. And so the other thing we probably want to focus on while we're working on this is that the sprites are particularly small, so we can maximize the number of them, you know, for enemies that we would have on screen for, you know, having waves of this didn't do what I wanted it to do. Why is that? So we can maximize the number of enemies on screen at any given time, unless it's a particular, you know, you have spots in certain games where you have an enemy that is particularly large, and so you want them to, you know, consume more sprites than otherwise smaller enemies. So that's going to be a balancing act, both in the technical and the sort of, you know, you didn't see that, in the technical and the kind of fun aspect of it. Cool. So that's working. So let's skip over that's good enough for what we're doing here. So the next thing I want to do is I want to add something to keep track of the player's score, which we haven't up until this point done. So we have all this stuff in the 0 page. Is there any other? So that's low RAM, and then that's RAM. We just add it into here. For score, I'm thinking, let's see. 16 bits gets you 65,535. What does 24 bits get you? Two to the 24th. Oh, it's squaring it. Clicking the wrong thing. 2 to the 24th minus 1. So 16,777,215. That's the max. That would be the max score you could get numerically, not in the game necessarily, but that's like the max we could track. Does that seem good? I guess that seems good. I mean, we can always expand it. So that's 3 bytes. And then basically what we would do is we would, in our code, can I exclude this folder? I don't know if there's a way to do that. I'd like to be able to do that. But anyway. Let's see. So, check bullet collision. We'll check... you could just add some extra zeros to the number and draw it so you can pretend like if... yeah, right, exactly. Right, yeah, instead of being 16 million, it would be 16,777,000,000. And you never get anything in the lower 3. Alright, so... yeah, so this checks against... basically, this checks against any entity in the list of entities to see if it's something that the bullets should even collide with, and then if it is, it checks to see if we've collided with it. And if we have, we will then destroy the thing by changing it over to an explode. Or, actually, do we even do that? Or do we just set it to no entity and add... okay, so we destroy the bullet by setting it to no entity, and then we change the entity type of the sprite to explode, so it plays the explosion animation. We reset the data and the timer. And then the other thing... so the only thing that we're not really keeping track of well here is... or we don't really care about... we don't care about the fact that the what the enemy type is. All we care about is that we that it was destroyed. And then we do have some code for checking to see if the thing was part of a group of enemies. Like these enemies are part of a group of 5 apiece, right? In the map we define. Yeah, so we keep track of if you've destroyed all of them. Let's see, load. Yeah, so it ties the enemy to, based on data plus 1, that's the location of the group object, and then it subtracts the Y world position, or the Y position and the Y world position plus 1, because these are where, those values are where we kept track of that. I don't know why there are 2 values. I know there was a reason, but we'll have to look back at that later and document it here. So let's start with something simple, which is let's do something like, if you're in this and you destroy an enemy, we'll add 10 to the score. Okay, so we're going to do this here. It's okay to do this here because we've actually pulled A off, pushed. Wait, no, we didn't pull A off the stack. A is fine. This is fine here. Okay, what we're doing. That was, we were storing X onto the stack. So load A with 10, clear carry, add carry score, and then branch, let's see, branch carry clear to the next one, or to that, right? Otherwise, we want to, I mean, no matter what, we want to do that. If the carry is set, then we need to load A with score plus 1, clear the carry, add carry, with 1. We could increment it, but we need to know if it carries when we increment it. So you can't just do that in directly. Like, you can do increment score plus 1, but that doesn't work because then we don't know if carry got set. So we do that, and then we store it into score plus 1, and then we say branch carry clear to this, which will also bring us to that, which is fine. Otherwise, we will clear, it will do the same thing. We'll clear carry. Oh, no. We'll load A score plus 2. We'll clear carry. Add carry. And store it into score plus 3. And we're not going to bother checking, because if it overflows there, then something has gone wrong. We should be hopefully designing the game in such a way that the score doesn't overflow. And of course, we have range error. Okay. Good. Let's reload the ROM. Let's, do I have the debugger open? No. So let's open the debugger. Let's find out where score is located in memory. That is at memory location B0. So we will go there. And now we will track as we are destroying the enemies. Let's look at and see if we see behavior that makes sense. It's possible I totally screwed that up, but that's why we're testing it. So I destroyed all 5. Let's see, 32. That's 16 times 3. It's 48, and then 2, that's 50. So that makes sense because there were 5 enemies at 10 points apiece, right? Oh, I couldn't defeat them all because I ran out of energy for the gun, because it is not an infinite supply of bullets. Which you can't see here, but for testing purposes, we may just ignore that. Come on. No! All right. Okay, so that seems to be working. I just want to get to a point where it overflows. Let's see. What can we do? Let's disable the fire button timer. That reads the controller buttons here. Gameplay state. I don't remember. Jump process player bullet. Draw sprites, shooter, load, add bullet entity. Let's see, add bullet loop, add bullet. So let's just comment this out. We'll just do it every time, no matter what. That wasn't like an important part of the game design anyway. That was something I was just playing around with. So what happened? Did it not load A, load X, look for? Should just always do it, right? Jump, add bullet. No, sorry, JSR add bullet. No? Check if A is released. Okay. Did I not reload the ROM properly? Possibly. Here's my memory debugger. Alright, so 64, that sounds right, that sounds like 100. We're going to have to add more enemies, so... Yep, okay, cool. So far so good. Let's add more enemies on the map. Like before, we'll just kind of stagger them. So they're not all coming out at once, because that's going to give us a problem with the number of sprites that we're trying to display. Okay, that's saved. Okay. And then at some point we'll actually add the score counter to the top. So we're at 100. $150, 200, 250. I added enough, right? Did I not add enough? Of course I didn't add enough, because I wasn't paying attention. 50, 100, 150, 200. How did I manage to do that? Oh no, I did. Wait, I did, right? 50, 100, 150, 200, 250. No, I didn't. 250. And And then that'll get us over 300. This will push us even further. We'll see. We'll see. I could also increase the score value, but I'm just kind of having fun with the fact that this is all kind of working. We spent so much time building out all these tools and conversions and engine pieces. It's just kind of nice that things are like actually working like a game should to some extent. It's not a very good game at this point, but it is a game. It has the basic elements. Nope. Come on, come on, come on. Oh, come on, really? I can't believe I missed that one. I have to show this to my daughter tomorrow. She was asking about this because I was testing it out on the TV, and she was like, "What is this?" I said, "Well, it's a game I'm working on," and she got all excited about it. So I'll have to show her that there are actually some enemies you can destroy. She likes Poppin' Twinbee. She was excited to see that on the... she saw that when she was messing around with the Switch Online. Ah! I died. Alright, so... let's see. So 17C. That looks like that worked. How old is your daughter? This is, no, that's not the baby. My daughter is... she's almost 9. She... the baby is over a year old now, but that was not intentional that there was such a big spread between them. Just kind of, that's what happened. So, but it's fun. She's at an age where she actually kind of can have fun playing with him, and he is pretty little still and loves that an older kid wants to play with him. So it's fun. They're really cute together most of the time when she's not annoyed by being bothered by a little kid. I don't know, what should I make the value? 100? What did I say that was? 64 before, right? So she's pretty into video games. She likes Mario Kart and Splatoon a lot. We got our Switch at the beginning of the pandemic last year because, you know, all the kids switched to homeschool, and she was just kind of having a hard time with being home and not being able to see her friends and stuff, and so I was able to actually find a Switch, the coral pink one, which is like, she loves that color. And so, you know, we surprised her with it. She was super excited to get a video game system of her own that was like current, because she has a one of the old Slate 2DS's, which, I mean, I actually like those. I thought they were very comfortable. I played most of the Samus Returns remake on that, and I really liked it. I didn't miss the 3D at all. So that should have been 500. I don't know what that whole tile situation was. It's almost like my pause broke the scrolling. That's possible. That's possible that has some sort of bug, that it doesn't load a strip if you pause it at exactly the right moment. So let's see what this is. 1F4. That's 500. Okay. That's cool. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Let's restart the game. going to make sure to put the spawn point a little bit over to the left so the enemies, when they're weaving back and forth, are not going off the screen. Ah! Okay, so that should be 1,000. And my hex math is not good enough that I can do that off the top of my head. That is 1,000. Okay, cool. Let's see. We're not going to get into... Ah! No! We're not going to get into the really, really big numbers here. But we should be able to see that this is actually calculating what it's supposed to. And then what we'll do, that happened too quickly. And then what we'll do is we'll check to make sure that that the bonus code works too. All right, so what did we have? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spawn areas of 5 at 100 apiece. So it was 500, not in hex. 500. What was that? 3,000. So that's BB8. Did I do that wrong? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, there are more down. So there are 8 down there, right? So there's 8 total. So 8 at 5, that's 4,000. FA0. All right, that looks like my math is actually working. So as we play through, obviously the score will accumulate. Okay, cool. So let's add a bonus for if you destroy the let's add a bonus for if you destroy the entire group. So there is, I believe, spawn point is a thing that gets processed because it's got to check the timer, it's got to check the number of objects that it spawned. It also has to check to see if it's off the map, and if it's off the map, it no longer... If it's off the map, it no longer will spawn anything, obviously. Or, actually, no, that's not true. What does it do? It checks... It spawns... Because it's spawning off the top of the... Okay, so it's checking the child count to see if there are no more children left. That makes sense. And then it despawns this thing. Because what would happen... Okay, so that was right. What was happening was... If it scrolled off the screen, if the timing was too long, then it wouldn't continue to spawn the enemy. So it actually had to be its own separate entity. Oh, and then also, because if you tied it to the first object that was spawned, as soon as you destroyed that object, it stopped spawning more enemies. All right, so... let's see here. So, store the parent of the object in the object for group counting. So that's in data +1. Let me put some comments in here. Data +1 equals the entity index for the parent spawn point, assuming such a thing, assuming it exists. I should probably check to see if that is... I guess we would spawn all enemies through that mechanism just to ensure consistency. But then you have additional... It's kind of like then you have 2 entities for every one. You used to be able to just spawn enemies directly, but then this will have a problem because it's just assuming that that's what is in that. All right, let's take a look at this also. So decrement the timer, load the timer in, branch if not equal. So if it's not 0, then skip object load, otherwise reset the timer. Load A, okay, so YW position. YW position is equal to timer count, timer... No, what is it? What's the original or reset timer value? And then we store that into the timer. Check the child. Right, so Y position is equal to number of children left to spawn. So if that's that, then we just clear this thing out. Otherwise, we load data +1. What is that? If that's 0, then we skip the object load. It'll look, I know we probably do something where we add the map object, add map object. I know we have something called add map object. I just don't remember how, that works. Spawning, okay. So the spawning sprite ID, I gotta document this somewhere because, I mean, it's useful that it's here, but it would be nicer if it were, oh, I see, I have it here. So data +1, I should put it in like a shared document or something within the, or just a document, a file that's just comments for stuff like this, but all right, at least it's commented here somewhere. So data +1 is the number of items left to spawn. Y world position +1, the number of spawn enemies left to destroy. Okay, so that's why, and then Y position only used if current sprite is not actually visible, the number of child sprites. So this, let's see, Y world position +1. So this is checking, this is subtracting the number of enemies left to destroy. And then the number of child sprites. Is that how many are left? What does it increment here? I don't see it incrementing anything. So what is spawn point data +1? Spawn point data +1 is number of items left to spawn. So that'll be the, it'll load data YV Y. So I'm guessing... Okay, so number of that. Should probably put this over here. So, for example, we're saying oh yeah, there are a lot of objects. There are 8. Oh, I forgot about that. Okay. So I was looking at this 8 going, why is it 8 and not 1? But it's because we don't have just 1 anymore. So 8, 6. So this 5 is the number of objects that we want to spawn. So yworld plus 1 is the one for tracking group destruction, is what it's saying. So in this, when we go to decrement, we decrement the yworld plus 1, and then y position is load at2. What is T2? Increment Y, load object stored in T2. Story into T2, and then load AT2. If it's not 0, then if the sprite, oh, that's if it's visible. Okay, so if T2 is 0, meaning it's not visible, then we can actually keep track of that if we actually need it. Y position. Oh, so we're storing the total number of sprites there as well. I don't remember why we're doing it in 3 places though. It's kind of weird that we're doing that. If the sprite isn't visible, copy the spawn count so that we can keep track of that if we actually need to. That's, oh, I see. So that if we ever need to know, okay, like how many are there? How many were there at some point where they're supposed to be total? So this is going to actually have the value 5 in it at all times versus these two, which will decrement when you destroy the enemy versus, let's see, Y position. I don't know why we're doing the decrement there too. So, sorry, like I'm going through this and half explaining and half describing. So when we're loading the objects, we're loading the number of things we want to spawn, and we're storing that into data plus 1, and then we're also storing it into Y position plus 1. And this is basically we're overriding, we're piggybacking on this variable to keep track of if we've destroyed all the objects in a all the enemies in a group of spawned enemies. This one is if this is the number of active children. I'm sorry, no, that's the number of items left to spawn, which is different than that. Oh, I understand what I meant by that. Okay. Okay, I see. So, all right. So now I understand what I was doing here. My description wasn't very good. So, yeah, data plus 1 is the number of sprites you want to spawn from the object in the map. So that would be like 5 at the beginning, and then it would count down until there are no more objects left to spawn. This keeps track of how many children, how many sprites were spawned from this that are still active. That differs from how many were destroyed. It's not always different. Like if I destroy all of them, it's not going to be different. They're going to be the same value. But if an enemy goes off screen, it's going to look for if it has a parent object, and it's going to decrement that number to determine if we should despawn the spawn point, right? Because the spawn point should be active until all the children are spawned. And potentially if all the not until all the children are out of scope of the screen. So yeah, so it's checking here to see, okay, are there any active children still? And if there aren't, then, or yeah, if there are no active children, then it's going to immediately just leave. Data plus 1, it checks how many more things do we have to spawn. So if it's 0, it skips also, right? It will then decrement the value of that if it's not 0. And then it's going to load the information about what it is it needs to add. And then it's going to call add map object. And then after that, it's going to update the data plus 1 of the thing it spawned to tell it where the parent is. So what we could do here in theory is we could say, all right, so we've decremented these, and then we want to say load objects plus entity. Which one was it? It was my world position plus 1 x. Branch not equal. So if it's not 0, then just go to the next thing. Go to the next. Skip over this. Go to that next label. Otherwise, we're going to load A with, let's say we're going to load A with 200. Right? We'll add a little bonus score that you destroyed the whole wave of enemies that came out. So C8. So load A. So what we need to do, so like we wrote this code here that increments the score with 3 bytes. Probably should just make this a subroutine. Like what we can do is we can say, let's load A with that value and store that into temp1 and then jump to subroutine. Add to, or, you know, we don't even need to do that. Add to score. this. And then here, let's create a new file. Add to score. Return from subroutine. So okay, so we do our math here. And basically we just, A is going to come in with the value that we need, and we call add to score, and then we're done. So same thing here. Load this and then call add to score. This way we're not doing this over and over again. And then okay, you can even do this for not that we necessarily need to, but just to kind of organize some things. We'll probably want to do that more and more as we start working on some of these things in the game. All right, so let's see if that worked. And we'll know pretty quickly because we should get, I think we said the ships were 100 piece, and then if you get all of them, you get a bonus of 200. So we should end up with 700 after this first wave. So 2 BC, let's see. 700, there you go. And then, you know, if we were really doing something cool and had sound, we could actually have it play like a little sound or something, maybe. I don't know. Not really important right now. There we go. Score is 1400. So this is looking good. This is actually looking like it's working the way that it's supposed to. $834. Oops, not F4, 2100. Yep. I gotta move those. It's annoying that they're right at the edge like that. AF0. Oh no, 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 no. DAC. 3500. Ah, crap, I missed that one, so I don't get the bonus. All right, so that's all looking pretty good. And the score in the end, 14B4, 5300. Okay. So let's do a couple things. Let's move these guys in because they're a little bit too close to the edge. All right, so that's good. Let's I want to fix that grass color because I really don't like it. Ends up looking more like blue than green. So I had done this at some point in another stream, but let's make this change, and then we'll re-export everything. We'll update our palette to make it work. I guess I should do this version. I think I'm using this here, so let's go with Now I thought I had... an NES palette in here on this computer somewhere. Gonna drive me crazy. It's been driving me crazy every time we I guess that is the NES palette then. It's been driving me crazy every time I've streamed, but I always forget after the stream is done that this wasn't working. So me look at the palette here. I mean, it's sideways, but yeah, that's mostly right. It's not exactly right. I thought there was an NES palette that it supported. Like I even thought there was a an option to choose from the presets. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. So it's saying this is the... Oh. Yeah, that's the one I want. Of course, it screwed up all my colors now. That's gross. Is that more like the real palette set, though? It is. Just all the colors got... It did not... Oh, because I guess it's because it's indexed. It, it just swapped. Alright, we'll make it RGB, and then we'll swap the palette so it'll map it in a reasonable way, and then we'll convert over to indexed. It's still not right. Why did you do that? You couldn't find good approximations of the colors, aseprite? I guess. Will that fix it if I do that? Seems like it. So I can recolor this and then... Okay. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just kind of tedious. Let me just do some of the tiles that actually matter. Yeah, okay. And then the only thing is the grass color is no longer correct. The question is, what is it going to try and use? So if we go back to this has reloaded the JPEG so that the colors are now the new colors, so that looks reasonable. The acid tool will probably fail because of the palettes not being... okay, so color analyzed and was not found, XC. So, or just C rather. C is that dark blue color. Is it because this is the color that it was expecting? Probably. Save. Oh, wait a minute. This is not the right palette. I mean, it's close, but it was not. There we go. Alright, so there's this, and let's make that this. Palette save. So 12. 12 is 1, 2, it's this light color. I guess it's that. Should probably provide a little bit more information. Okay, so 0C. Like which palette or which metatile it's processing. So it was on the third one. You can cheat and look at it this way. Okay, so it's that one. That makes sense. That one would have an issue because I didn't really update the colors in that. Let's see. So these colors are the same. But the problem is that the blue has changed. So now that has to change. Did I change the right thing? I did, I think. We'll see if that updates. This when we export, or rather how it will update it. That looks like it did get updated, so let's try this again. Oops. Zero C. Which is just that blue color, right? Where's a close screen tool? Palette open. 0C is just this color here. Which is what that is, isn't it? Oh, maybe because the little wavelet color is different than the light color that's here. It looks like it's the same. Well, one thing we can do to test that I'm actually even changing the right thing is I'm going to add that little dot there. I want to see if that actually shows up. Okay, that is in fact the right spot. So let's re-export that. That went away, so let's run that through. Match palette is -1. So last analyzed was not found. C0. Oh wait, C0. C0. No, it's not C0. It would have been C0. It's 0C. So it is that color. Kind of at a loss for why it doesn't like the palette as it is Sprite metatile. This was the export from before. And these are the 4 palettes. So it's looking for this. That's weird that it's looking for that color. I mean, I'm assuming that's the color it's looking for, which would be why that palette wouldn't match. Instead of 1, 2, and 2, 2, or actually it's not 1, 2, and 2, 2. What is it using for? What did I... C and 1, 2. Let me make sure I'm using the correct corresponding colors. So C is that one over there, and in aseprite it is this color. That is not really the color though. That's like much darker, and that's not the color of the water. So is that... Maybe it'd be worth writing out the PNG when this happens so we can look at what the PNG looks like. And the expected values, right? Because this isn't the first time I've gotten stuck trying to mess with things with the colors. There it is. So if matched palette equals -1, we'll just do a printout to the screen. Starting to get tired here. I'm also simultaneously trying to think about if this makes sense to in the way that I'm currently writing it. So printf x plus y times 16 right, so we're just going to basically print out the grid of colors, and we'll see why it didn't match. Do I have it open? I do. And then, like I said, we could do something where we write out the PNG also. All right, so what is this? This is all C's except for this. 22. What is this? This is the little wavelet. Oh, okay, so the palette... Oh, interesting. So the palette color that it associated with the little wavelet piece is 22. What do I have? 12. So it should be this. So let's save and exit that, and save and overwrite that rather. All right, now this is the glass. So this is looking for F, C, and 22. So I thought, let's see, so what is F? F, 22, and C. Well, it has that here, doesn't it? That's interesting. Save. Let me do something here. Just a little bit, something to make it a little bit easier to parse visually. If we wanted to be really fancy, we could do something where we, you know, we should probably. We'll just force it to be fixed. What is it? Is it just like 0.2? I don't, is that how you do that? I don't remember. I never remember those advanced formatting things for printf because I hardly ever use them. I think that was it though. Okay, cool. So we know they're always going to be 2 digits. This way we don't have to worry about the spacing, and we can actually have them line up. So there's C, F, and 22. Those are the 3 values. And this looks like, to me, this is the glass. Oh, okay. So, C, F, C, 22, and F. We also have F here. Why? Last color analyzed and was not found. I mean, it should have worked with this first palette, though. F, C, 22. Did I not change the background color for the map? No, it's 15. That's F. All right, so is it because F is here also? Like if I make this a crazy color, does that somehow fix it? Yeah. So it was on the third one. Wait, that was still the third one? That's weird. Oh, I guess that was the second one it was processing. Okay, so that looks good. And it's actually loaded the palette with the right value there. So why doesn't like this? Oh, there is a 12 in there. What is 12? 12 is that. Well, we can fit that in. I'm not sure how that works, but okay. Okay, cool. So now that fixed that, and we have this one that's all 2A. So 2A is going to be over here, and that is that green color. So this is now this. Yeah, this actually works pretty well. I mean, it's not 100% visual, but at least I can see like what the tile looks like to know what's going on. And then this is the forest one, so we have 0F to 29. I assume that this is just... So 0F, 29. Let's see if that fixes it. 0F29 0C. What is 0C? 0C is that. There we go. All right, well that was a little tedious, but that actually worked. I don't hate that process so far. And as we get better at building some of these things, I think we'll have less of a problem of things not matching. But we'll see. We may have to revisit that. It's kind of a quick fix way to make these things get changed. All right, so that looks awful, but it did change. So now the problem is that the water color is no good. The watercolor is this 0C color, which just looks like green. Was that a... I wonder if that's a... because of the emulator. Choice in colors. Oh yeah, look at that. So that's not as bad as it was before. It's still too green. But let's let's stay with this palette. All right. Oops. Didn't click on save, I guess. Palette. Composite direct. Okay. So we're looking at this, and that looks, let's see, is that close to NES Screen Tool? That looks pretty close to Screen Tool in terms of the palette it has. So for the water, what I'd like for it to be is more of like an 11. And we can actually play around with this. Yeah. So 11 is definitely more the color that I want. Now, how do we do that? In theory, I should be able to... Let's see, that's this color here. Is that the color that it's actually thinking it's using? Oops. I guess that's what color it thinks it's using. But that is not the color that we are getting from our conversion process. That's fine. Let's go back to tiled. Yeah, so tiled is definitely... Well, let's do this. If we take Screen Tool and we say 11, we save this. I assume that what's going to happen based on our past experiences here is that we are going to get an error that it can't find the color. And it's looking for 0C. It's because it's a little bit darker. compared to, so all of this comes down to that we're doing conversion from the RGB value to make this work. And the RGB value, I'm doing my best to convert that in a way that's logical, but it's not a perfect science, and so there's no, oops, it's not a clean, guaranteed way. Now, we could work by just going off of an indexed color directly, but I feel like that's a little bit limiting in terms of kind of the way that the artist is working. He's still working within the confines of the palette. We may just have to kind of modify the palette that he's using to better reflect the NES. What is this that I'm looking at? This is the window now. Okay, so that's actually cool. So that seems to have made it happy with the choice of 11. So then if I do this, and so it was just, it's like a touch darker than it should be, is what it came down to. And again, this is based on just an RGB mapping I'm doing from some research I did about how to RGB map and determine like how similar two colors are. So it's not it may not even be a correct way of doing it. It seems to be working relatively well, but there's also variations in terms of like this palette and how it maps to what Shiru did in NES Screen Tool, right? But that exported, so now let's open this back up. What's the deal? So that's 11. That's what I said I wanted to be. Oh, it created... Why is 12 there? Oh, I see. And so it's closer to 12, and so it chose 12 now. Interesting. And then that background tile ended up getting mapped to gray and black. I don't know if that's because of me not doing this for all these tiles. It could be. Let's try and do, because I think I just grabbed all 4 of these instead of just one, and then because it doesn't matter right now, we're not doing any tile compression yet. If I can get this to look somewhat decent, we'll wrap for tonight to end on a high note. And then I'll take a look at that ROM that you sent over, Sigma Heavy Industries. See what you did. having the debuggers open is not great for performance in Messin. Yeah, it's still showing the gray there. All right, I mean, this is all an asset chain thing. Like, I'm not actually that upset that this isn't working. We'll have to refine the palette that we use in aseprite to map a little bit better. What I may end up doing is creating. Hey, Miak, it's going well. Let me just summarize what I was thinking, and then I'll show you real quick. We'll do a quick summary of what we did today. So it may end up being that what I'll do is I'll create a bunch of metatiles that are individually mapped to different colors here, and make sure that the asset tool maps them properly, and then from there we'll use that palette so that we know that the color selected here maps properly within the asset tool and to these palettes correctly. So, I mean, all in all, got actually a decent amount accomplished. So, just a quick recap of what we did. So we got the object layer stuff loading properly because there had been a bug in the way that it was mapping stuff from the object layer to the eventual output because of the changes we made for the background. What is it? B0. And then we implemented the score counter. So as you destroy enemies, you rack up a score, and then for larger enemies, if you destroy the entire group of enemies, you get an additional bonus score here. So like if I destroy all 5 of these, we'll get a score of 700, which is 2 BC. Let's make sure I'm not lying. If I then only destroy 2 of those enemies, that should be 900 now, 384, yep. And I won't get any bonus from destroying, because I didn't destroy all those enemies. So this is actually working with the bonus, so that's 900 plus 700, that should be then 1600, is that right? 640. Yeah, so we're using 3 bytes for our score counting, and then I was trying to load in some stuff with the with changes so that the colors look a little bit more like I want them to, like in particular in here, and you know, with some moderate success, we added something to the asset tool so that it now tells you where it can't match the colors, and it gives you a printout of the tile, so you can see what colors it was trying to use. It might be useful to also just include a summarization of all the colors that it's trying to use, because for a couple of them I was having a hard time finding what the color was. Like there was a 21 mixed in there that I wasn't expecting. All right, cool. Let me grab that ROM that you popped into the chat here. We will put that right into there. Do you mind if I show this on stream with the recording, or do you want me to do it after the recording is over? I don't mind either way, so let me know. Okay, cool. So let's load this up into Messin. All right, cool. A to jump, A again to double jump. Hold A near rails to grind. Release A while grinding to jump. Down while grinding to fall. Manage your speed or die. Okay, let's see. Oh, cool. I see. Very nice. Oh, oh no. Oh, whoa. I'm not sure what happened there. Let me see that again. Grinding. Looks like you can jump rails. Let's see if I can do that. Doesn't matter if it's within reach or is it just... So I think it might be that it was in reach on the other side and then it hopped me up to the next one. Let's see. Double jump is a thing. Lasers kill you. No, you missed it. Yeah. Okay, so. Whoa, 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 whoa. What was that? It's like there seems to be some weirdness. Or did I die? And then it. What? That's the death reset. Oh, okay. Is there sound? Maybe that'll help too, because let's see. Do I have audio on? I do. Is there audio or is there not audio yet? Oh, you can hear it? What? Oh, you know what? Do I have my headphones turned down? Ah. Oh, so if you grind too far off to the left, you die? Is that what it is? Or something was killing my guy by doing that time limit. Oh, okay. Oh. 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 Whoa. Nice. This is great. Oh. It's kind of funny that you get the little double jump at the end of the, as you're falling to your doom. Ah, can't seem to get that jump timed right. There we go. Man, you get going real fast too. This is great. Good job. This is really fun. I can probably spend the next 20 minutes on stream playing this before I realize what happened. So that's awesome. What was the inspiration for this? Tony Hawk, yeah. Did you get the Tony Hawk remake 1 and 2? I used to play that a lot on. I feel like it was GameCube, probably. Nice. So were you had you been learning NES before, looking at my stuff, or was it just you found my stuff and then that kind of started you on making this? Oh, as you were making it. Cool. Just searching for other people working on an ESF. Fun. Well, this is great. This is a lot of fun. Are you involved in the NESDev compo at all? They do the annual competition where you submit a game. It has to be under a certain size, and there's some limitations because it eventually gets compiled down into a like a multi-cart that people can buy. If you enter, you get it in there. Thought about submitting it, but I never did anything with the game. And round 24, yeah. The game through about something commercial, but never did. Just kind of sitting on my drive. It's really good. It's I mean there are some things that are I think a little bit. I mean, the sound actually helped me understanding what was going on. But, you know, just little things like if you run out of time, maybe just something slightly different to let you know that that's why you died versus just dying. But, like, once you start going fast, it's, like, really kind of hectic, and that's fun to be, like, zipping through the levels and being caught up in trying not to die as you're going that fast. So you definitely have something there. You should keep going with it. It's really cool. But thank you for sharing that. I'm actually gonna play that again later. So, all right, cool. Well, I'm gonna wrap the stream here. I was saying I was gonna do a mega stream, but this is actually a good place to stop because next time we can come back and start working on, maybe we'll start working on displaying the score and fixing some of the stuff related to you know, handling maximum number of sprites and whatnot, because some of we obviously ran into some problems where we had more entities than we had sprites for. We probably need to handle that appropriately in some way, or maybe even just have some sort of, if nothing else, have some sort of way of alerting me while I'm playtesting and others while we're playtesting that we're hitting a scenario that may lead to problems where you won't be able to see enemies, but you'll be testing for the collision because they're still there, right? Like the entities are still live in memory, but we can't display them because we have nothing left to display it on. And we could do some rotating, you know, of the entities across the sprites, even more so than just, you know, I guess before October of 2019, when I took the break, we were doing some work where we were just rotating how the sprites were getting populated with the entities so that they would flicker if there was the maximum, you know, if we had the 8 on the scan line. But we also could do something where we are also iterating through the entities out of order to flicker the ones that aren't going to fit in the 64 sprite hardware limit if we have too many. And like I said, we would probably want to keep track of if that happens, because that may not be something we want to allow for in the end. But we'll start with the score. We'll display the score on screen. I'll have to find some tiles for the font for that, but pretty happy with the progress we made here. We actually did some NES assembly programming instead of messing around with the tool, so that was fun. So anyway, Thank you, as always, for joining me. If you want to find me online, I'm on Twitter at Clairvis. I can also be reached on Discord as Clairvis, or if you're in Video Game Sage, I'm Zelius, because I wanted to make it confusing. No, I didn't realize that would allow me to create a separate Zelius versus Clairvis, but whatever. You can find me on there. I'm on Video Game Sage and the Brewery channel pretty often. I'm also on NESDev, although not quite as often on their Discord. You can also email me at zelius@gmail.com. I do have a Patreon if you're interested in that sort of thing. People always ask, so you can either do that or buy me a coffee if you get something out of these videos, but it's not necessary. I'm going to still keep making them. And Zero Pages episode 6 will eventually come out. I am working on it slowly, but it's hard to find time for. Video editing and production is super time consuming. So anyway, thanks again for watching. I will see you next time. Have a good night.